And then also on the flip side, if there is, something where, you encountered a problem but came up with a pretty cool solution that you think we can all benefit from, you're welcome to share that too. So I don't know if anybody is already queued up and wants to jump in and go first.
So I don't have an issue or problem, but a client of ours had they were looking, and this isn't really a FileMaker thing either, sorry, but they asked us if we have any colleagues or contacts that are experts with PostgreSQL SQL, because they have what they think is a database corruption error. So I told her that I would reach out to our user group to see if there's anyone here who might know any experts in that arena or have any leads to experts in that arena that we could point them to.
Okay. I know I do not.
Okay.
Anybody else does?
It's been a long time since I worked with it. Probably 15 years more, so it may have changed. So I'm not sure I would have any idea of how to do it myself or who to contact anymore.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So, I guess if anybody happens to hear anything, pass it on to Teresa's direction. So
yeah, thanks.
It's always worth checking with Wim DeCord about things like that.
Okay.
I don't know if he is particularly focused on Postgres, but he certainly knows a good deal about SQL.
Okay.
Or post a question, post that to the community forum or to FM forums and see what people have to say.
Okay, thank you.
And Postgres is a valid ESS data source, last I checked, so you're not completely off topic if you post it on the FileMaker forum.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think that this, so they're one of our clients, but I don't think that this particular solution is even touching FileMaker. So
well, if things go well, maybe they will. This could be a potential FileMaker customer.
Right. Well, they use FileMaker. They use FileMaker in a bunch of different little areas, but they're like a school of medicine, so they're just data everywhere. So all kinds of different systems.
Well,
but
good question for the forum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Because there are probably people that are more current in it that either work with it with FileMaker or without FileMaker. So both the forms.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. All right. Who's next with a question?
I have one. My client just moved to the cloud, the Claris cloud. And it was pretty cool once I got there to be able to look around and figure out most things. But they just announced the update. So if anybody has experience with cloud and knows whether that update goes real smoothly or if I need to do something special before I hit that okay update, let me know.
So we have a number of clients using the Claris cloud, and I don't know that I even knew that it was an option to say whether or not to update. If you're talking about the server itself, we just periodically, Claris automatically does the updates, and then you'll just get an email that says, something to the effect of your cloud update was successful.
Okay. I thought that's what would happen. And because they just announced it today, I didn't really expect it to be an automatically it's been turned on, but I didn't know about what kind of notifications we get once it did it automatically. So that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe check with Andrew Duncan or Bill. I'm going to say the wrong Bill. Bill Heiser.
Yeah.
They're that is they are the experts on that, and manage a great deal of activity in that area. Or again, check with WIM.
I have a question.
Okay.
Now, this kind of moving to the cloud, but not Claire's cloud. We set up a virtual Windows. What do I got? Windows server. I don't know whatever the version is. I don't know. They're 18. I don't know. They're behind. But so I was just wondering if anyone has any experience with that and have used TS Plus Advanced Security on it so that you could do remote apps. So basically, FileMaker 9 shows up in a web browser or Microsoft remote desktop, or you could just have a starter file. Has anyone done anything like that?
I mean, as far as like, FileMaker in like a Windows remote desktop situation, we have done that. But it's actually something that we host internally, so it's not technically in the cloud. Because I mean, the cloud is just somebody else's computer. So, I mean, we do use it for our sister company that has multiple locations. So there's like users in Baltimore that are connecting back to remote desktop sessions essentially, but it's done through VMware's virtualization. So it's probably not 100% apples to apples comparison to what you're going through, but overall it has worked well for us, from that regard, just because we're not pushing all the data. They're just getting essentially the screen and all the data kind of stays local. So usually the performance has been pretty good from that standpoint.
Well, this has been very interesting. I mean, we're about to in a few months open a branch in Virginia. So I'm in Pittsburgh, for those that don't know, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and so I was just wondering if anyone had any experience on the speed or anything. I'm so used to running the server on a Mac that this is new for me, but I tried to break it and I couldn't break it. So I guess it runs pretty well. I always hear a few of you folks always saying that it runs, FileMaker server seems to run well on the Windows server.
Yeah, and the speed is exactly the reason why we did what we did. Because we had, at the time, there was a location in West Virginia that had a very small internet connection, and we knew we couldn't have them connecting to the live, database from a local client. And that was what we did. I think we started with like Citrix, using their remote desktop equivalent.
Okay.
And then have since moved to like the VMware, I think it's Horizon is the name of the product, but it's worked well. I mean, the biggest thing is just sometimes you have to do some special stuff to make sure you're getting to the right printer that's connected locally. But that's really been the only thing that we've had to deal with, was sometimes you have to like get onto the person's machine, in quotes, because it's, a virtual machine, but do the printer script step from there to make sure that you're, it's defaulting to the correct printer, because, it's so horrible that the user has to keep selecting a different printer than what keeps popping up. So,
Well, I can see that challenge. We are going to remain in Pittsburgh. We're going to remain Macs, but the location in Virginia is they're used to Windows,
okay.
and so
Well, I would take a step back first, Kim,
okay.
and attempt to make a connection to the hosted file on the server in the cloud from the desktop with the FileMaker Pro client, just as you would on a local area network. You will then discover the degree of latency that you have, depending on where the cloud data warehouse is located. For example, if you were using AWS, AWS has a huge data warehouse out by Dulles Airport outside of Washington. So, you may have a very robust connection. Now, the same factors that apply to a local area network or wide area network will apply using the cloud. The construction and design of the system, having the optimal amount of RAM assigned both on the server and on the client, not getting involved with somebody's cat has escaped, I love it, and things like that. I would try that before I went the route of, Citrix or remote desktop or something like that. Do not attempt, in fact, I don't think anymore that you can even do this, but do not attempt to put pro, client, and server on the same machine. That is not a best practice, and I think it has now been fixed that you cannot actually run the pro client on like Windows Server 2016, for example. Again, if you have specific questions or you want more information, post something to the community or to FM forums, and we can get you a more detailed answer.
Okay, thank you. It is on AWS, so that's why I was hoping it would be good for, like you said, they're in the Washington DC area, so I was thinking Virginia. They're right. They're they're in that area of where Washington DC, that part of Virginia, and
well, that Amazon data warehouse is, it's just huge. Half the internet traffic in the United States passes through Fairfax County, Virginia, just because of the concentration of these data warehouses from several people. I think Microsoft has one, and I believe Google may have one as well, though I'm not sure about that.
okay, well they're in Manassas, so they're in Fairfax County, so that's good.
They can climb up on the roof and throw a rock and hit the data center.
Okay, thank you.
Who's next?
Well, I came across something fairly small, but I kind of have abandoned because it was too small for me to look further into it, but maybe someone has an answer for this. It's styling of checkboxes, and I could not customize. I forgot if it was the outer shadow or the inner shadow, but one of the two from the team that I was in, and I could disable it altogether, but I could not customize it. So I could not change the color or like how thick or thin or whatever. I was stuck with the default blue that just didn't match at all the color team that I was in. So just mentioning it out there, because I think I just disabled it, but if I was able to customize it, I'd rather do that.
Yeah, what theme, Robert?
It was a custom one that I don't know what it's derived from. So,
okay.
But I guess the question could stand for the native one. I didn't look into those, but my assumption is I'd have the same issue there. Just trying that as we speak.
Hey, Robert, what are you trying to do with the custom shadow? I'm playing around over here. Outer shadow, I just turned it on for, I think, the first time in 20 years.
Yeah, so I think when you style something as a checkbox, so there's different states, and I think it's the state when it has focus, meaning when you're just, or maybe it's the pressed one. It's one of those two, where natively it's going to give you a blue inner shadow, I think. And I was just stuck with that. You know, I couldn't change the color. I could disable it, but I could not change the color or the other attributes that you get to customize normally with inner shadows.
Version of Pro
19.
19 the
19.3.2.
okay.
I'm looking at the checkbox here. There's 3 components. It seems that a checkbox is composed of a checkbox. There's a checkbox set, a checkbox, and an icon. And then if I'm looking in the inspector, I don't see like a whole range of choices popping up on, you know, color this, color that. So that's my way of, we did that with different objects, using the inspector to see what was possible by clicking on an object and seeing what they had grayed out, what they didn't have grayed out.
Yeah.
Just to kind of explore what the possibilities were. But I haven't done that much with checkboxes. I remember they weren't massively configurable, but I was sufficiently happy with what they presented to move on to different things. So I got no help here. And I'm not a huge fan of outer shadow, but it sounds nice to the blue hover click. Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know if it was outer or inner, but it was yeah, basically it was something that was there that I just could not customize. So, and there are those things, you know, I think for like, say, the portals, the elevator, if you don't like how it looks, you know, you're stuck with whatever they give you.
That's one of the things that's limited. So, like, it's not 100% complete, but it's pretty darn close. Yeah, the little elevator was one of them. And there was some, I remember this, my coding partner did a lot of the work when we set up our custom theme for the second time, because the first time we got it wrong. Second time we got it right, made a video. But yeah, I remember her saying that there were a couple of missing pieces. Checkboxes come to mind. I think radio buttons was another one, and the elevator and the portal was another one. It was like, hey, you know what? Oh, well, we still like the platform.
Yeah.
We know when to give up. We know it's like we're very serene about it all. Things we can't change. Portal elevators.
Yeah. So it looks like it is the outer shadow, and yeah, it must have been something like enlightened for the team or derived from it.
So I can tell you all what I'm going to work on, and maybe someone's got some thoughts on starting points here. So I was on a web app the other day, and you know how web apps have a feature where there's like a checkboxes running top to bottom, like a list view in a web, you know, what is kind of equivalent to a list view in a website. And there's checkboxes, and you click a bunch of them, and there's buttons running across the top. It's like, okay, now that you've clicked this, you can delete the things that are checked, or you can, you know, select a discontiguous selection of items in a list and then affect them in some way, perhaps delete. Does that make sense? Was that sufficient description?
I think so.
So it basically, to take it over to the FileMaker world, same pattern that I was looking to affect, which is the ability in a list view or a portal. Say I'm looking at a list view of 20 items, and I want to select them in a discontiguous fashion. You know, I want to select the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 7th, you know, and then the 11th. And then I want to say, okay, I want to delete these 5. So it's like select them and have the visual appearance change. And then say, okay, yep, those are the ones. And then hit delete and have something happen. If it was a list view, it might be like, okay, omit all these things or keep only. And if it was a portal, I did get a customer request that I've gotten is the ability to select a bunch of things, have them visually appear, and then move them all up to a particular place, move them to the top, move them to the bottom, delete them all, that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. FM, the LA group, FM Disc FM, I think it is. They had a presentation like 4 months ago. Someone was doing it. So I'm probably look back at that as starting point, but I was looking to do it without without touching the records. I don't want to modify anything. I want it to be fast, and I want it to be easily portable. So I'm thinking of using like double $ variables, because that can be portable. I don't have to touch schema.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. You know, as you click a record, you toggle it on or off, and you're basically just setting the ID for that record. All you need are the IDs, right?
True.
And you're just
Yeah.
checking, is that ID already in the list? Then I'm turning it off. If it's not in the list, I'm turning it on.
Yeah.
And, you know, conditional formatting is telling you if it's on the list or not. And then your action could even be, excuse me, I mean, you could pop it into a global, and then you could do a go to related to get to all the records if you want to just delete them or something in a quick step. But
Yeah, it could be a global, and or stacked find. And if Stephen's still on the call with us, I got to look. Stephen Blackwell and Debbie Fuchs. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm looking. Steve's still there. Did maybe 20 years ago did a white paper comparing GTRR with a stacked find,
Yes.
which is, I believe, a technique underutilized, which is like script only, no globals. Although, you know, big fan of GTRR, use it a lot. But just, you know, riffing as we're just playing and having fun here. I was thinking of potentially doing a stacked find for portability, because I want to be able to have some code that I can just drop into a solution super duper fast, you know,
Is
and
it-
with a light footprint.
Yeah, do you mean, for stack find, you mean loop through, the list and new request set, new request set, new request set?
I would say yes, yes, and yes.
Okay,
And I think it's performant, and it's kind of crazy because you can do a stack find with, I don't think there's an upper limit. There's probably some upper limit, like 16 trillion or something, but you can do like a lot of, you can find 100 times. So you've got, yeah, you got what Beth said, a list, and I might use record ID because I have a field that has the record ID instead of primary key, which might wind up being a UUID, which is super duper long. That's another thing I'm like exploring, using record ID. Maybe it's a little speed bump by using record ID and a field that calculates record ID. So that's what I'm working on. Probably spend a couple of weeks. I want to kind of get it perfect because I think it's a bread and butter feature. Should be, someone should present that for, not me, someone should present that for Engage Beyond.
I have to say, Tony, something that I'm curious about with the multiple find requests is how it compares to things that will constrain the found set and extend the found set, as opposed to doing everything in a single set of requests, because the requests are executed in order. So if you have a request that finds for something, and then the next request is flagged to emit records matching a given criteria, and then the next one is including records that supersede your request to emit criteria. The order is relevant, and so it can quite literally do the same work as constrain found set and extend found set, but I don't know if one performs better than the other. Like, is it better to give the whole stack to the server and say, go find this for me, or to try and do things first on a given set and then extend just from there, or constrain just from there?
So actually, good question, and also good clarification, because I tend to use the word stack find without breaking it out to say there's a stack constraint, which is, you know, kind of three kinds of finds, right? Regular find, constrain, and extend. You know, you could think of them as different ways of finding. And so actually, in a lot of cases, you would be using a stacked constraint, would be more accurate. And then, yeah, I don't know the answer. I mean, testing, and it maybe depends, but I would also, you know, you'd run a little beauty contest or a speed contest between, you know, a loop omit in some cases might be faster. a constrained find in some cases might be faster. A regular find might be faster. I don't have those metrics at my fingertips. Maybe Clay. Anyone got his home number?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I don't know about whether it's faster, but I thought it was always understood that all find requests were at the top and any omits were always at the bottom. You know, it's the last thing you do is omit. And so you had to find everything and then go back and omit. So I don't
Well,
know. I haven't tested whether that's faster or not faster, but if you try to mix a request with an omit with a request with an omit, then you're right. It's not going to be accurate.
Yeah, and technically you're absolutely right that when we write multiple requests, the omits tend to be the latest ones. But if you were to say, give me a request of the people who bought sunglasses in all of the United States, and then omit the mail records from there, and then add everyone from Nebraska, the Nebraska request that follows would include mails even if they were omitted in the middle. So it's really they're being processed in the order they're submitted, but technically speaking, it's very rare that you will add something that will say disregard something that I'm already omitting in my previous request.
Let me also say, there's a lot of really kind of complicated use cases for finding omitting based on business logic. What I'm going to try and do is focus on like a very, in a sense, generic use case where it's just a list, when there's no business logic constraining, and all of the actions would be quite simple. It's like I highlighted these, and it's just one action. But those come up. I mean, we've done them all different ways. We've done find followed by constrain, and then sometimes find, constrain, and loop omit. And we just keep on doing it until it's fast enough, and then we're like, okay, we're done.
And if you do a request that would say you do 2 requests, one is find a US, the second one is omit mails, and the third request would be Nebraska, but in the mail category, you would say not equals mail. That would include that as an omit. It would only find the not mails in Nebraska and include them.
Can you do a request where you say not equal at the same time on the same request where you specify a state to be equal to something?
Yes.
How do you do that?
You just like you would any find request. You can do, when you do an and request, you're saying, I want to find the state Nebraska, and I want to find all records except for those that have mail in it. So it would be not equal mail.
Not equal. So there's an operator for not equal?
Yeah.
Wow. And
hey, on the topic of finding, kind of a tangent, but interesting, something I bumped into the other day. So I got to admit, we had a find pick list. Huge fan of pick lists over here, especially because you can have multiple search criteria. But bumped into a thing where the data had one of them special characters that you see in the find. And I forget what it was, but it was like one of those things that's kind of reserved find character. And so I had to tweak the script to escape the find characters. I'm going to tell you which one it was just to make the story more dramatic. Did that make sense, by the way? So you're finding and you have like a global field and it contains something. I think it was like a question mark.
Was it for emails?
Well, it might have been emails. It might have been, I think it was actually a hash sign, but any one of these could be. So then I wrote a little custom function, which didn't even cover all of them, but it's basically you have to escape all these characters. I'm looking at them. You got to escape the email. I think it's diacritical, whatever the hell that thing's called. the @ sign, the hash sign, the asterisk, and so forth and so on. So anyway, that was a bug we found. We figured it out. We fixed it.
I'm-
Try not to do it again.
Yeah. Beverly, you'll have to text me something or in the chat or whatever, because I'm not finding an operator that is not equal value X, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at that in find mode now. I don't see it in the operators list.
Well, I think Beverly, what you said earlier about omits at the end, that's the way I mean, that's what I always heard. That's what we always do. That's always worked. Just save your omits for last, especially, within one search. You can sometimes do 2 searches in a row in the same script, which obviously be a different case, but for any given find, whether it's find, constrain, or extend, omits at the end.
There's an article in the knowledge base.
Oh.
See if I
And
can
while you're looking it up there, Beverly, let me just interject that, Tony, I think we're all of an age that you could have referred to it as the pound symbol and we would have known what you were talking about. So.
Because it has, right? Before social media was the pound. That reminded, I got to go check my Twitter drip command. Oh, I know Beverly loves Twitter. Just kidding. Or wait, no, doesn't love Twitter. Not equal to Twitter liking.
No, yes. Okay, yeah, I don't see it in that article either. Okay, maybe there was something else. Maybe it's greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or.
Well, it's handled by the omit, so.
Well, yeah, it can, but he was trying to do a second request that included Nebraska. We'd have to admit it again. I know there's a bunch of ways that you can do and requests and or requests all in a single record and come up with different results.
Well, in a single request,
Yeah.
usually, and anything you specify in different fields in the same request is going to be considered end.
Correct.
And as soon as you start creating a new request and specify something else, and there is an or, I mean, provided you don't specify omit, because if you specify omit, then yes, it says match this and omit those, but not match this or omit those. You can't or omit, but
Right.
sometimes I wish like it would be possible, like in the request itself, to submit an expression to say, hey, try and get a little bit of this and a little bit of that and see if it matches my expression, and then resolve, instead of having to create a calculation field or loop on the records or whatever. But
DJ, would execute SQL work to do that?
Probably, but wouldn't be any more efficient.
So, Robert, you're talking about some sort of regular expression implementation?
I'm not sure that I'd have an example that I could easily provide for this, but I've recalled in the past that there were times where I was like, I can't really query on that directly. I need to create a calculation field that's going to give me that so I can query on it.
So I signed up for Stephen Blackwell. I signed up for 2 events. Is that how many events are currently scheduled for Claris Engage Beyond?
To the best of my knowledge, it's 2 events on the 25th of August. Brad Freitag and Peter Turner. Peter Turner was a guy in the association management business. Peter Nelson, followed by Wim DeCord. 2 sessions.
Okay, I'm signed up. And then there's this idea to custom app workshop.
I think that's Steve Romig. I don't know whether you can you register for that yet? I don't know.
I'm going to guess that might be sort of an entry level thing, which is a good thing, but.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Plus you have to have an idea first, so counts me out.
All right, well, anything more on fines or selecting the list?
Stay tuned. I'm hoping to come up with like a implementation that I never have to look back at.
All right, we will
Yeah,
have
I
to
think that
keep us posted.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna concur with Beth on that. We built that on one of our solutions where it's like a list of samples for genetic, I don't know, some kind of genetic sequencing machine, and then they have to like go through and manage their samples. And so same type of thing. There's a checkbox row at the front, and you can select. You can do the shift click to select a range, or the individual click to, select or deselect. And then there's a popover button at the top where you could pick which action you want to use for the selected. And I think we did exactly what Beth said, which was, use the fixed variable for the IDs, and then just kind of loop through afterwards, do the work and be done. I'm sorry, my cat is making a ton of noise.
Wait, was that a glitch in the matrix? What was that? If that cat walks by one more time, I'm going to be
Deja
pretty
vu all over
suspicious.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And yeah, different ways to do it. I just feel like digging deep on it and potentially adding it to, lots of layouts if I can make it easy and fast and lightweight. And I like what you just said about the shift click thing. Or some variant of that that's FileMaker Go friendly, although I'm not quite sure how you do that. Modifier keys. Anyway, be good for the platform.
Robert, I just was looking at the custom web publishing because I thought that's where I saw it. EQ means equal, but NEQ means omit, and I thought it meant not equal. So it is an omit.
Okay, well, we don't have to do a feature request. It exists.
No. Yeah. Well, but it's still called an omit on the web, custom publishing.
Anyone else?
I could use some advice on a FileMaker Microsoft Outlook integration. I inherited a file from a client and it's got, if anybody's used this before, DB Services did a nice little sample of how to do that kind of thing. And, you can use their code. So it's built on that. It was working great. But they added some calendars, some shared calendars. And there's a get calendar function that lets you, talk to the Outlook calendar and grab the IDs so that you have them to be able to write to those calendars. But my user account, even though I have same permissions as other people on their account, won't give me one of the IDs for one of the new calendars. And when I write to one of the new calendars, I don't get an error. It gives me the event ID and change key, but it does not actually appear on the Outlook calendar. So I don't know if anybody's done any Outlook integrations, but if you have, I'd love to hear about it.
Is this Outlook part of Microsoft 360 cloud type thing, or is this Outlook more desktop kind of thing?
No, it's the OS 365 cloud stuff. It uses the Microsoft Graph API.
Yeah, unfortunately, the limits of our Microsoft Office integration has been with just sending mail through the Outlook client. And we've had some issues where they've upgraded and FileMaker is running 64-bit and Office is still 32-bit, and it gets very grumpy.
Yeah.
But that's been the only, it doesn't sound like that's probably what's going on here if it's with calendars and not not mail. So
Yeah, it's calendars and it's through the API. It's not any type of local client or anything. All right, just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
well, I guess while you guys are thinking, I can give you guys an update, because I actually asked this question, I think it was last time we were together, dealing with persistent IDs on iOS devices that are no longer persistent. And I think at the time we talked about, setting like the name of the device and that kind of thing, and wanted to find a solution that was maybe a little bit more insulated from somebody randomly changing the name on an iOS device. And so we're actually trying to use iBeacons, where we would just like attach an iBeacon right by the mount that holds the iPad. And then whenever you log in and it knows that it's using this permissions group on an iOS device, it says, well, let me see if there's an iBeacon close by. And then we have a table so it's still in the development stage, but that's the direction that we're taking, to use iBeacons to know which machine the iPad is attached to. So
That's
That
interesting.
sounds clever.
Yeah. I forget what since it was so long ago, what was the issue? Was it that you said that the persistent IDs were changing?
yeah, like if you did like an iOS update, or if you uninstalled one version of FileMaker Go and put a new version on, it
Okay.
would generate a new persistent ID because of some security stuff that actually happens at the iOS level. It wasn't anything that FileMaker really had a choice. It was just, this is how it works now.
Yeah, because wasn't that also like if you were accessing so you were on an iPad and you were using WebDirect versus FileMaker Go, you would also get a different persistent ID?
I want to say that is correct. I don't really have a lot of experience with WebDirect on an iPad, but I do remember hearing that. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's all tied up in either, in the hardware plus software, that kind of environment,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, because as it turns out, we actually had a bunch of iBeacons that we had purchased when FileMaker first announced that you could do things with iBeacons, and they've been sitting in the corner of my office for years. And I turned around one day and it's like, oh, I wonder if something like that will work. So that's what I'm attempting. The only thing that I don't know if because I thought, because there's like a UUID that goes with the iBeacon, as well as a major and then a minor value. I thought that the major and minor values could be adjusted and set to different things. Unfortunately, the application that you're supposed to use to be able to manage your iBeacons that came from the manufacturer of the iBeacons crashes every time I try to get in there. And because I thought, if I could, use the major as this is the building code and the minor is the actual name of the machine, then I just have to look for that. I don't have to look up anything in a table. But unfortunately, I'm not able to make those changes. Does anybody know if I'm misremembering, or is that how it should work? And it's just the other application isn't letting me get to that point.
That's my understanding of how it's supposed to work. I share your pain. I did when the iBeacons came out, we picked it as the diagram to do for the DevCon. I've done exactly 0 iBeacon projects, one diagram though. And yeah, that's my memory, that the major minor is essentially for like the building. It's like a hierarchical naming structure. So it should work, but I think the application to manage the iBeacon crashing, maybe it's not compatible with your current operating system or something. I don't know.
That could be so. But like I said, I think I've at least got an approach. It's just like in some of the testing I've done, it's like you pick one iBeacon, carry it off to the break room, run a couple tests to make sure that it's picking up that same one. And then I got to walk back to my office where I've got like a dozen laid out, because that was just freaking it out whenever I would do the range beacons. It would just go out and grab everything that they could find in range. And I've found a little bit that if you play around with the amount of time, because I was getting some where it would return information about the beacon, but it was indeterminate as far as how close it was. but if I shortened the time period, it was always defaulting where the first one was always the closest one. So still some more work to do, but at least I'm hopefully headed in the right direction. So, and thank you all for your insight from last time that got me to this point. So. All right. Anyone else? Thomas and Robert had to step away, so.
Oh, there's I don't know if people saw it, and maybe Todd. So there's a user group, subgroup, I guess, on community, and I saw an email go by that Rosemary was looking that they're posting some user group videos. And I didn't actually go looking. I just posted a list of all the user groups that I'm aware of that are recording videos. You would be one of them.
Okay.
And I just, dumped it out there and like, hey, look at all the user groups. I missed one. I missed .FMburgh. That's probably pronounced different. Berlin. Those guys, Germany, somewhere in Germany. And they have been recording meetings from their most recent get together. Yeah, I just put it out there to see what they want to pick up because there's about 12 user groups that have recently begun recording meetings.
Okay. Yes, I don't think I've seen it yet. I'll have to go check
It's
it out.
somewhere it's on, there's a user group thing, and if you're probably on it, if not, should be.
Okay.
You guys, all you guys running the show here.
Yes, in Western Pennsylvania, we would say yuns. So just
That's,
Wait, how do you say it? I
right.
want to learn a little culture here.
yeah.
I live in a bit of a bubble here in New York City.
Or Eastern Ohio, same thing, yuns.
Yeah.
Y'all.
Yeah.
No.
I got a buddy of mine, shout out my friend Scott Rose, who you may or may not know. He's actually traveling the country and he's up to 44 states. He's going to keep going till he hits 60 or 50. I forget. I lost count. But he's in North Carolina, in case anyone's wondering. Passed through New York, went to the city, survived.
Yeah.
It's called Group Leaders. And it's a private group, but you can check with Rosemary and request access to it. And it's for developer user groups and their leaders to be able to communicate and share. And but it's not open to everybody. You have to request to be on it. But it's called
Okay.
Group Leaders.
Group leaders. Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right. Well, is any other questions? Because we can move on to the wrap up and give everybody a little bit of time back to their Wednesday evening. So I will go ahead and I guess go ahead and keep thinking. We can always circle back if anybody comes up with one more thing. Would you allow me to be able to share there, Teresa? All right. So hit the survey questions because I know you guys have been dying to know the results of the survey. So the first question was, having attended our Would You Rather roundtable discussion, the majority said that they plan to answer all future questions by saying it depends, because that seemed to be the theme of which way you would do something. And well,
Of course.
it depends. So
There's one correct answer. It
That's
depends.
right.
yeah. So it probably comes as no surprise to anyone. So then the second question that we asked is that it had been about a year since FileMaker 19 has been released. And just wanted to know what people thought was what feature added the most benefit to either you as the user or to you as the developer of FileMaker solutions. And you can see that the card window support on FileMaker WebDirect, FileMaker Data API, and being able to build and leverage drag and drop add-ons were the big winners of the at least the features that I identified to put in the survey. So, and then the last question was, wanted to know what flavor of ice cream everybody thought they were. And so vanilla and moose tracks, most people identified with one of those two flavors. And one for chocolate chip cookie dough and a black raspberry. So
I don't know what Moose Tracks is.
I think that is it's like a chocolate swirl with peanuts, and I know a couple different companies offer Moose Tracks. I know I like it, which is probably why it made the list. But
I think sometimes they have little peanut butter cups in them, or little,
that's
little
what it is.
things in there.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
I think I've seen one that has like brownie chunks in it, like a version. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, and just in case you were wondering, I Googled the 10 most popular ice cream flavors in the US. And so that's where these 10 flavors came from, is that supposedly those are the 10 most popular. So there you go. All right. So important dates. Our next meeting will be September 1st, which actually puts it just before Labor Day. So hopefully that allows you all to join with us again, or excuse me, Yins to join with us again. We've already hit on this a little bit earlier, but just the Claris Engage Beyond kickoff event is scheduled for August 25th. It's at noon Eastern. I think I did the conversion right. Yeah, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. on the West Coast. I'll make sure that in the follow-up email, the link is included. But if you just go to the Claris website, I think there's actually a banner at the top that just, you can click to, and you can register for both it and the other session that happens like a half hour later with Wim about the running FileMaker server on Linux. So just be aware of that. And for anybody that's interested, the Suicide Squad movie opens in theaters and on HBO Max on Friday. So another one of those important dates. It did not make a slide, but just so that folks are aware, there is it's not obviously DevCon or Engage, but there is a Pause on Error conference. It's their summer workshop, but it was actually delayed and is happening, I think, the first full week of October down in northeastern Georgia. So if you visit Pause on Error site, you can get information about that. But that also raises the question, because that actually happens during the week of what would be our regular monthly meeting in October. So we may look at rescheduling. So there will be a survey question as to whether the week before or the week after would be better for everyone's schedules. And like I said, as noted in the email, we'd hope to be able to meet in person starting today, but with the University of Pittsburgh schedule, they're not really opening their buildings for outside visitors until after the students return for the fall semester. So I'll have to double check and see if that means the fall semester has started before our September meeting, or if we'll have to hold off one more month. For those of you that are joining us from a great distance, we still plan to make the meetings available online, so you can join us whether you can be there in person or not. So, and then our next topic is to be determined. Might be another roundtable. Hopefully, might be a FileMaker show and tell. So if you get your thing figured out there, Tony, and want to share it, just let us know. We can look for that. So,
and I will say that Todd, you guys, when you did one of those which is better things, which maybe one day will appear at a theater near you. I thought that was very successful. I attended most of them. I missed one, but those were, I found them personally useful to have these kind of spirited debates about this feature versus that feature. And I will say, at least in my opinion, that as a FileMaker community, we did not exhaust all the topics about which we can argue. Discuss.
Yeah, I'm sure. So that will probably make a return appearance, I'm sure. So
Yeah, no, I think it was good. And I heard Matt Navarre was like, oh, let's hold off. But I say, why now? Why not now? Because I'm sure we'll have other things to disagree with later.
Right.
Discuss.
All right. So did anybody come up with another burning question that needs to be asked before we all go our separate ways?
I do.
Okay.
I'm just curious, has anybody taken the new certification test? And if so, how does it compare to previous certification exams?
I have taken it, and other than not asking questions about the specific version of FileMaker, I'm pretty sure there were questions on there that I've seen since I started taking the certification exam. So, structure wise, and, pick 2 of the 5 or 3 of the 7 correct answers. They're still there. So they're waiting for you to, to second guess yourself on. But, that was really the only difference that was obvious, was that, a lot of the, what version of Chrome does it work with, or OS, those kinds of things weren't there. And I don't recall seeing, and obviously there's a lot of things that are new to the platform that they can't really ask about because it's, you're running JavaScript in a web viewer. It's not like they were asking you to write JavaScript as part of the exam. There was questions about it, but it was just what they could ask from within the realm of your FileMaker knowledge. So
basically things that are in the documentation.
Yeah, things that are, yeah, exactly. So, if you've taken the test before and passed it, even though you thought you failed it, that feeling will still exist when you take the new one. So.
Oh, good to know. So I can approach the next exam with the same level of stress that I've done the last 7 of them.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, you're just like, do I click the I'm done with this now and find out the bad news? And it's like, oh, I guess I did better than I thought. So.
All right, cool. Well, at least you didn't say it was so much worse. So I'm okay with same.
Yeah.
But I would be concerned.
Yeah, I would say it was, if you're, yeah, no, it's, if you've taken them before, it should be, same level of stress, same level of difficulty, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Well, I did think of 2 more things because we've missed Paul here the last few meetings. So I feel like I need to step into his shoes. But are you guys aware of the health benefits of eating sun-dried grapes? Because I'm raising awareness. All right. And so I had to tell my suitcases that we're not going on vacation again this year, and they got very upset. So now I'm dealing with emotional baggage.
And you did Paul proud.
Yeah. He's
Thank-
definitely appreciating this.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Did anybody else come up with one more thing they wanted to ask?
Or one more joke they want to tell.
Or one more joke, yes. All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up a little early here. Give everybody a little bit of time back to their Wednesday evening. So thank you all for taking the time out to join us, and hope you enjoyed being a part of the discussion. And we will see you next month.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you
All
next
right.
month.
All right. Have a great
Bye-bye.
night, everybody.
You too.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.